Hey Shimano, where are my replacement cranks? Like many others, I found out that my Shimano cranks were subject to the recent inspection and recall. There are some pretty nasty looking photos and videos out there of complete crank failure. So after waiting a few months for the initial rush to die down, and with a healthy dose of procrastination and she'll be right, I eventually took my Emonda into the local bike shop for an assessment. I was actually surprised to hear that there was a problem with my cranks, not the material bonding issue that many have reported, but a crack. My bike store told me they'd found this problem and would contact Shimano for a replacement. Perfect. I'll get a new set of cranks for my bike, which should add a little to the resale value. Maybe. And then I waited and waited and waited. 11 days later, I hadn't heard anything, so I followed up with an email to the local bike shop. They said they'd had no response from Shimano and had no idea how much longer the cranks would be. A little frustrating. At the 3-week mark, I checked in again with the local bike shop, who still had no ETA for the new cranks. So I was starting to get a little cross. Surely Shimano would have some idea of how many cranks they'd need to replace, and they would have kicked production into top gear to keep the huge legion of Shimano crank owners happy. Starting to get a little annoyed now, I visited the Shimano Australia website and sent them a message via their Contact Us system. I gave them a day or two, no reply. I called Shimano Australia. I spoke to a very friendly chap there. He said that new stock of cranks was coming, but would be at least another 2 weeks away. I said to him, so that will be 5 weeks for me without the bike. No doubt sensing the displeasure in my voice, he then mentioned that Shimano had canvassed an alternative option that might be available sooner, but they did not have a definitive ETA on these either. He then asked me which shop my bike was at, and he offered to liaise with them directly. I didn't really hold out much hope that there was going to be an improvement to the situation, so I was greatly surprised when I got an email from the local bike shop that same morning saying that Shimano had called them straight back and offered them the Plan B replacement cranks, which were actually available immediately. If I understand correctly, the replacement Ultegra cranks that were initially offered were model number FC08. This seems like a different naming convention to the normal Ultegra series, and I read on the Slow Twitch forum that these cranks have unique product codes because they are essentially 12-speed cranksets with 11-speed chain rings. The rings are designed specifically for this recall. So this made sense as a way to speed up the fulfillment of cranks using at least part of their current production molds. But it seems that the supply of these cranks, at least in the size that I'm looking for, has been exhausted. So it seems that the FC08 cranks that have been produced specifically for the recall are not available anymore, and now I'll be supplied with the FCR8000 cranks, which were the original cranks specified on the bike. Honestly, I don't really care. I just want a set of replacement cranks, so I told them to proceed. I'm quite happy with either of these options. I just want the bike back so I can ride it. What I'm not happy about is 3 weeks of radio silence that only ended because I started agitating. I just don't really think this is good enough. I don't mind waiting so long as I know how long I'll be waiting for. Anyhow, the end seemingly is in sight, and I'm greatly looking forward to getting my Emonda back in the stable. I have a few more comparison videos that I'm planning to make between my two bikes with two very different crank lengths to look at the performance outcomes with each. Have you been affected by the Shimano crank recall? What was your experience? How long did you have to wait? Were you happy with the outcome or not?